One. Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ever wonder why 83% of adults never get fit? Well, that's exactly what we're going to answer on today's episode. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, business bros, are you ready to revolutionize your fitness journey and crush those long-standing myths? Well, imagine transforming your body not in years, but in a time frame you never thought was possible. Say goodbye to fad diets and hello to a life where achieving your fitness goals is not just a dream, but a reality. With a track record of turning the impossible into the I did it, our next guest has mastered the art of sculpting physiques and empowering lives. He's not just a fitness coach, he's a transformational wizard, a strategist in the battle against the bulge, and a myth buster in the world of health and wellness. So get ready to be inspired, motivated, and ready most of all to take action as we welcome to the show the fitness game changer, the founder of the King's Court, Mr. Tristan King. All right, Tristan, welcome to the program, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother. I love that intro. That was motivating.
I got you pumped up, dude. That's the whole idea. I mean, look, you literally do that already for a living. You literally get people pumped up. Like, you get the feeling. So I figured, got to do the same thing for you, man.
Thank you for paying it forward, man. I appreciate that.
All right, let's start off with the very first question. I always ask everyone who comes on the show is here because they are promoting something. They got a business, they got a product, they got a service. What is that for you?
Yeah, man. So I started my online coaching business back in February of 2021 while I was still an active duty Marine. So I just recently separated back in April, and now I do this full time. I started helping people with their fitness, personal life goals, and ultimately fitness saved my life. So I help others achieve by giving them the same results. So I offer fitness, nutrition, weekly coaching calls, 24-hour tech support. We do group Zoom calls as well with my team and myself. And we just make an impact on people's lives in every way possible, man.
Boom. And who we looking at? Who's our ideal candidate here? We talking like, I'm way overweight and I need to get down. I'm like, I was an athlete and I need to tone up. Like, who's that ideal client that you're looking for?
Well, I mean, we can help really anybody when it comes to lifestyle clients, but ultimately, I personally enjoy working with, older gentlemen, that are overweight or never really have found that confidence with their physical self. So, anybody, ultimately, I'm not like biased to anybody specifically, but, ideally somebody that wants to drop, significant amount of weight and learn how to do it in a sustainable, healthy way so they can do it for the rest of their lives and not need any help after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Now, you said that fitness saved your life. And I think for a lot of people who end up getting in shape, that's true one way or another, whether they realize it or not. But specifically in your story, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, man. So that goes deep. So, I mean, like I said, I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. 5 days after I graduated high school, I was in boot camp, wasted no time. And, I was always into sports and stuff growing up, lived a healthy lifestyle for the most part up until I started to, I got later on into high school, started to abuse drugs and alcohol and, really just wasn't on a good path in life. And, I had to choose the Marine Corps. For me, it was my calling. It was my second chance of making something of myself. Because if I was to stay in my hometown, that wasn't going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So once I started getting into the Marine Corps, that you have to maintain the standard. I mean, we have strict height and weight standards. So ultimately, being physically fit is part of the job. But I took it a step further once I got back into it, full swing of things back in mid 2017. I was going through a divorce at that time, and a lot of heartache. Was using alcohol a lot still, coping with alcohol. But the one thing that I always had in my life was the gym, and was that part of me that I really never truly discovered until I got back into the gym and made it my identity, made it my lifestyle. And it gave me my purpose. It gave me my really everything. Like, my reason to be who I am today, the example for my kids. I do have a daughter and a son as well. And, I, have no choice but to be that example that they can look up to and, aspire to be one day. And, if I didn't have that outlet, if I didn't have that positive coping mechanism at the time, I mean, I don't know where I would have ended up, man, but it wouldn't have been anywhere good. We can just say that.
Yeah, definitely not a pretty way to go. You start spiraling out of control for sure. I think I kind of feel like we've all kind of been there at some point or another. But I mean, I titled the show 83% of adults never get in shape. And it's because we end up in those spirals, and maybe they're not as intense as yours, right? Maybe they weren't in the drug and alcohol phase, but they still spiral to a point where they're not taking care of themselves. And you said something important that I kind of want to like focus on, whereas you said you made it your identity. It's something that it was a standard of yours. We always live up to our standards, but we don't always do those things that we want to do, right? The things that we should do. It's only those things that we have to do that become part of who we are. And then it's really difficult to break. But it's not always easy to change that identity, to bring that identity to somebody. And you said you like working with older guys that are, probably never been there before. It's probably never been their identity. How do you help them become that person that they can be?
Yeah, great question, man. So one thing that I take away from the Marine Corps specifically, right, is we harp on something called being brilliant in the basics, right? And if somebody has never been into fitness, or never hasn't even like stepped foot into the gym, or even started on counting macronutrients or done anything of that sort, right? The most important thing is crawl, walk, run, right? And becoming brilliant in the basics. So, habits, right? Waking up at a consistent time every single day, right? Starting to dial in your macronutrients, right? And staying consistent with that over a period of time. And then just making sure that you're consistent with your workouts and everything, right? But it goes much deeper, like brilliance in the basics is in like the habits of discipline, right? Because it's discipline that's going to take people the furthest in life, right? And without discipline, everything is just temporary, right? With that motivation, but ultimately that motivation will seize away. And the only thing that people have left after that is discipline. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I harp on so much the brilliance in the basics. And what I want out of my clients is to become so familiarized with the basics of fitness, nutrition, along with habits of healthy lifestyle and of a disciplined man or woman, right? And ultimately it's going to leak into all other areas of their life as well, right? So becoming brilliant in the basics will excel all other aspects of their life as well.
All right, man. I'm going to be as brutally honest as I can with you. I have this addiction to like sugar, candy. Like it is my thing, dude. And it's not an everyday thing, but definitely when the weekend shows up, I go bad on it. During the week, I'm actually really good. I run like 6 miles a day, except when it rains because I don't feel like running in the rain. But I'll run like 6 miles a day, about 30 miles a week. I also do like weight training. So I wake up in the morning. My alarm goes off like at 4:20. First thing I do is I go downstairs, I hit the gym for about 30, 45 minutes, and then I go on my run. That's about an hour. It's pretty extreme. People look at me like I'm crazy. And I know it is extreme and it is crazy, but part of the reason why I started is because I knew I had some of these bad eating habits and I kind of wanted to neutralize them. Now I'm going to ask you, like, be as forthcoming as you can, because I know there's people out there who are like, look, I just want to be able to work out so I can eat what I want to eat. Is that like a real thing, or am I just like lying to myself here?
Yeah, 100% lying to yourself, brother. You cannot outwork a bad diet, first and foremost. Like I've heard people say the same stuff too. Like, oh, I go to the gym. Like some guys have literally told me that they go to the gym just so they can eat whatever they want, right? And yeah, when you're younger, your metabolism might be a little bit more on your side and in your favor, right? But is that sustainable? Absolutely not, right? And another thing that tells me is these certain individuals, not to call you out, but essentially.
Oh, you can call me out. All good.
Oh, I'm not calling you out then. What I'm saying is that's very superficial, right? Is people are more obsessed over the results, right? And more obsessed over, that, what they look like, the physical aspect of everything, but not the identity and not the person that becomes that, right? I have a saying, and I live wholeheartedly to this. In order to receive, you must become, right? In order to receive the body you want, the life you want, the financial wealth that you want, or whatever you're going for, right? You must become that person in all ways and all attributes positive, that will align with the person that you look to become, right? So is that person that, has the body and the life that you dream of, are they cutting corners? Are they fucking taking shortcuts in life? Absolutely not, right? So I would never, at the same time, I do agree with having cheap meals, right? I understand the place for that kind of stuff. But ultimately, like, no, I do never promote taking shortcuts or doing anything of the sort. You know what I'm saying?
Fair. And I don't really have cheat meals. I have like a cheat day. And that's the bad part, that I know I feel guilty. I rag on myself, but at the same time, I bust my ass during the week. So, and during the week, I do eat pretty good, right? I mean, during the week, it's like salads and proteins and like, it's good. But then that day comes on the weekend, bro. And I'm telling you, that addiction kicks over and it always takes over. No, but it's good. And here's the other thing that I think is a huge change. Well, was a huge change for me. Probably, I mean, I'm 41 now, but somewhere around early 30s, I stopped drinking things like soda and sweet stuff for the most part. During the week, all I drink is water. I don't even drink coffee. Like, it's just water. And I think that too has made a big difference. And I know we talked about diet a little bit, but how does hydration help there? How does drinking water during the day versus anything else that has, anything, sugars or sweeteners or whatever, how does that make a difference for somebody while they're becoming that identity that they want to become?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, your body's 2/3 made of water, right? So, in order for everything to be properly functioning, right, it needs to be lubricated with your main source, which is water, right? It's like oil for the body, essentially. And not only that, it also regulates your body temperature, everything like that, right? So it plays a role with your metabolism. Ultimately, if you're on a weight loss journey or you're looking to live some sort of healthier lifestyle, you should be having 1 ounce per pound of lean body weight, right? So, that's, give or take around a gallon a day. I tell all my clients, like, especially my male clients, if you can get up to about a gallon a day, that's a healthy range, and you want to maintain that, right? Does that all make sense?
Oh yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah. All right, let's talk about that diet then. That dreaded diet that I always dread to kind of stick to, but I know that's like 80% of your physical fitness.
100%.
And there's so many out there. There's so many different ways that you can go as far as starting a diet, keeping a diet, the type of food you should eat, not processed food, carnivore, keto, like everything else under the sun. What's your 2 cents when it comes to having a good diet for a program that you can become for a lifetime, not just a fad?
Right. Well, first and foremost, I don't really like to use the term diet to begin with, because I feel like that's kind of a turnoff, right? And a lot of people they coincide a diet with, like, pretty much if you're on a diet, you're not eating burgers or pizza and shit like that, right? But ultimately, you're just simply learning how to eat food, right? Because that's all it is. But people say if they're not eating all this junk, then they're just automatically on a diet, right? So I don't really like to use the term diet. I like to use a nutrition plan or nutritional guidance or what have you, right? But I'm not to split hairs, not that saying the word diet is a wrong term. I just don't like it for that reason, right? But ultimately, when it comes down to nutrition, man, it's the macronutrients, right? Getting your macros dialed in, right? So first and foremost, you should always base your diet or diet, nutrition plan, whatever you want to say, you should always base it around protein, right? First and foremost, are you getting enough protein in your nutrition plan per day, right? Ideally for a man, if you're trying to put on lean muscle tissue or maintain, right? You want to have anywhere from 1 gram to 1.5 grams per pound of lean body weight. That's not total body weight, because you're not taking into account for the body fat you're holding onto your body, right? So first and foremost, that, right? And then your carbs and fats, right? They play their role as well. The carbs are the main energy source of the body. So I don't agree with going on any kind of zero carb diet. I don't believe that that's how humans naturally function, right? And so I don't think that we should be doing any kind of fads that are taken away from our, regular human bodily functions, right? That just for me doesn't make sense. But then again, I have seen some success with these other, keto diets or whatever the case may be, right? But the thing about that is if you're on like an initial weight loss journey, right, and you go onto a keto diet, that's not going to be sustainable, right? Because as soon as you introduce carbs back into your nutrition, right, your body has already been starved of that for so long, it's going to retain as much carbs as possible, right? So it's all going to be converted into glycogen or stored body fat, right? So that, in my opinion, is why ultimately macros, just getting your macros dialed in. I don't agree with all the fads out there or anything like that. That's not how I coach. Because ultimately, right, I believe that humans should be focusing on what, the way that we were brought up. And ultimately, if you think about it, like, did humans even have like, we're more intuitive eaters, right? Like that's how naturally humans were, brought up. We didn't have scales when back in the caveman days and things like that. Sometimes they would go days without eating, right? Which proves that fasting has benefits as well, right? So I do implement with some of my clients, if it works out for them, I believe in intermittent fasting. I believe, 16 hours off, 8 hours on eating, right, shows a lot of benefits when it comes to mental clarity, increase in growth hormone levels, so on and so forth, right? So that's, if you wouldn't want to call a fad, I would say, I do agree with that. But as far as like all those other crazy diets out there, that's not my go-to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally does. Totally does. Now, let me ask you about like vitamins or those types of additional supplements, for example. So at night before I go to bed, I take vitamin B12, D3, some omegas, some magnesium, and some calcium. And like that's the like my little bedtime regimen before I go to bed. That's what I have. And then another thing I heard was like you can eat a ton of fruit and it's all gravy, right? It's all good. Fruit's good for you, even though it has sugar. The a lot of the skins have different types of forgot what they call them, different ways that you process the food. So myth or fact on the fruit, and anything else I should be taking as far as vitamins or supplements before bed or during the day?
I would one, we'll start with the vitamin supplements. I would recommend, did you mention fish oil? Because if you didn't,
Yeah, the omega-3, the fish oils.
oh
Yes.
yeah, you did say that. Okay, my apologies. Well, if that's the case, no. I mean, I think as far as your nightly routine when it comes to that, I wouldn't steer off of any of it. Or off the top of my head, I don't see anywhere else that you would potentially need to add on, because you have the magnesium. You talked about the omegas, right? Those two right off the bat are like my top two. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
But the fruit thing, that's fiction. That's not true. You cannot just eat an unlimited amount of fruit, and that's not going to be, because they do still have those natural sugars, but it's sugar nonetheless, right? And if you're having that much, like to a point where you're eating in like substantial amount of fruit every single day, that's gonna catch up real quick, and it's gonna get stored body fat on you real quick, because your body cannot process that much sugar, even if it's natural sugar. That doesn't matter.
All right, it makes a big difference. All right, dude. So let me go into the little bit of you background as an entrepreneur. You left the military. You decided to go on this venture to start helping people. Entrepreneurship is not the easiest thing in the world to get into. What's been your journey like as an entrepreneur now that you're doing this full time?
Well, I mean, like I said, I did start while I was still active duty, so it was beneficial, and it was also not beneficial in a way, because one, I didn't have all my time, so that was a lot of time being taken away from my company, my business, right? But at the same time, I had some cushion because I did have that guaranteed every 2 week paycheck, right? So in case business wasn't great or whatever the case, there was some ups and downs, I still had my security blanket, if you will, right? Ultimately, my very first month in coaching, right, I cleared 10K my very first month. So as far as like making a living, that wasn't my concern. It's more so just the stability, right? And just like, knowing what I'm working with each month. And, yeah, I've invested close to six figures into my company over the last 3 years since I started it, right? And I'd say ultimately it's not so much like the biggest struggle with entrepreneurship for me is it's like a roller coaster, right? It's just like, you have some days where you feel like you're on top of the world and you're just crushing it, everything's going good. And then like the very next day, it can be the polar opposite effect. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I can say for me, what's kept me going, right, is just knowing that this is my purpose, right? And nothing is going to deter me from that because I know I got out of the military and forced myself into this position to where I either sink or swim. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's how it is for me. It is sink or swim. And for me, I have no option but to freaking swim. All right. So that makes me do what's necessary and holds me accountable. And plus, having the military experience, the 11 years in the Marine Corps, the discipline aspect, and knowing that I have to get shit done regardless of how I feel, has been such a plus for me as well. You know what I'm saying?
I always love working with people who've been in the military. Something about them having a concept of what a standard operating procedure is really takes them to another level when it comes to business. You develop SOPs, the process, that you got to get shit done even when you don't feel like doing it. And you always tend to move forward. Even if it's incrementally slow, you still always move forward to get to that goal that you want to get to. So I commend you for that for sure. Now, if people want to reach out to you, they want to find out more about what it is you do, how you do it, so they can get themselves in the best shape of their life and not be one of those 83% of adults who get stuck. How can they do that?
Multiple options, but I would say the first and foremost, you can reach me on my Instagram, and that one is at Tristan M King _. You can see right there. Another option is directly through my business line, and that phone number is 619-505-3808. You shoot me a text there and I'll text you right back as soon as I get the text. And that will be me texting because I'm the one that runs that CRM in my office. And then, last would go to my website. You can see at the bottom, www.thekingscourt.co. Right there, you'll be able to go ahead and click the book a call with me, and you can go to my calendar and choose the best date and time. And, we'll meet on Zoom and start talking about your goals and how we're going to crush them.
619, baby. I thought that was downtown San Diego in the background, but I wasn't 100% sure. It's been cloudy and rainy all day, so I was like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, dude. But cool. I'm in San Diego too, by the way, so it's awesome that you're close by. But yeah, ladies and gents, dude, hit them up. Thekingscourt.co, especially if you're in San Diego. Most of the time we got sunny weather. It's not always like this. And you got a lot of beautiful space out here that you can definitely get yourself into the best shape possible. Tristan, man, there's a lot of people who are trying to grow a business, trying to get to that next level, and always hit that hurdle. Just like with it comes to your own physical growth and trying to build that identity. Any words of wisdom, if you could go back and maybe tell yourself, or if you could tell, because I teach high school kids, right? So if you can go back and tell a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid who's graduating high school this year, like, this is what you got to do if you don't know where you're going. Any advice for young entrepreneurs?
Ooh, yeah. Well, first and foremost, if you're hesitant about what you want to do with your life, I say the military, because that instills so much discipline and so much the mindset to be successful in the entrepreneur world. If I didn't join the Marine Corps, I would not be the man I am or in the position that I am today. There's just no doubt about that. Would have took me substantially longer to ever figure it out, right? But ultimately, just keep going. Just send it. Less thinking, more doing, right? Obviously, when you're making critical decisions, put some sort of thought into it, right? But I would say the one thing that holds people back the most, right, is the analysis paralysis and overthinking, overanalyzing, what the best move is, right? Because one thing is for certain, even making a wrong decision initially is still putting you one step closer to your success, right? Because even off those wrong decisions we make, if we think it's a bad decision or whatever, that's all right, because we can still pivot back in the right direction and we have a lesson learned. So it's really not a bad decision, right? Because ultimately I see so many people are hesitant because they don't want to make like a bad choice or a bad decision or make the risk that could potentially let them fall on their face. But you got to be willing to fall on your face. Because if you're willing to fall on your face, you're willing to take those risks, then that is how you're going to get that feeling of success in the long run. But you got to be willing to do it.
100%, dude. You gotta take the action. It's the only way to get the results. And ideas, they're not really worth anything. One of my mentors, Billy Jean, is marketing right there in downtown San Diego. I love one of the sayings. He says, there's no such thing as $1 million idea, only $1 million execution. And that's really what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. You have to execute. You're thinking about maybe getting in shape sometime in the future. The problem is you're probably always saying, I'll start on Monday. I'll start on the first of the month. I'll start at the beginning of the year, and you never start. So today is your sign. You got to execute, decide, and take action. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be comfortable. You won't have motivation most of the time, but you'll develop a discipline that will get you the results that you're looking for. Tristan and his company here, the King's Court, is here to help you get your body into shape. So make sure you guys check it out, thekingscourt.co. Scrolling across the bottom, thekingscourt.co. You can follow him on Instagram, Tristan M. King _, and give him a follow. Figure out what he's up to. I'm sure he's giving you a ton of great value online, which is all the more reason why you need to hit him up on his website. Tristan, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz